Virtual Motorsports is now. This September, the heart of sim racing beats in Chicagoland as the Sim Gaming Expo takes over the Schaumburg Convention Center, September 5th through the 7th. Go wheel to wheel in our competition area, test the latest gear, meet top brands, creators, and celebrate with fellow sim racing enthusiasts. Whether you're a seasoned sim racer or new to the sport, this is your chance to be part of history. To purchase tickets and see the full exhibitor lineup, visit SimGamingExpo.com.
Live from iRacing's virtual Kansas Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to Green Flag TV's continuing coverage of the premier sim racing SimGamingExpo Truck Series. Well, as always, happy that you're joining us on a Wednesday evening. We're alongside Derrick Watson. My name is Evan Posocco. Our producer downstairs is Dustin Ollis, and we're happy to be on the call with you for tonight's Tyler Manning Design 210 as we get to our second straight intermediate race of the season. Derrick, coming off of a second race win of the year for Richard L. Regan Jr. just a week ago in Texas.
Yeah, what a wild race it was at Texas, and luckily, we're beyond that. Now we're out here into Kansas, where there's no place like home. But look at the rest of the schedule. We go to Rockingham next week. That, of course, the replacement for North Wilkesboro. Then we head into Charlotte, Nashville, and Michigan to round out the schedule. So for the most part, it really feels like if you're a fan or if you're a driver who's successful at mile and a half or bigger, the end of the season really is probably set up for you. You got Kansas, you got Charlotte. Of course, Michigan is 2 miles. So drivers who succeed at the intermediate plus tracks could find their way to the front here.
And this is the critical midway point to the championship as well. So we'll be talking driver standings and more. And of course, Richard L. Regan Jr., no surprise, the only multi-race winner so far this season, finds himself at the top of the standings with 4 races of 9 in the books. But it is not by a wide margin. Steve Lovey to Mark Kalin, the other 2 drivers who have been to victory lane so far this year, Derrick, they're only 3 points behind him. But it is a 3-way tie for that number 2 spot. Toss Bradley Hawley into that conversation as well. And even Ted Lowendick only 3 further back. Those top 5 trucks under a blanket right now. There's still a long way to go. I suspect we will see some separation amongst those drivers between now and the championship race in Michigan. But for the time being, it is extremely competitive at the very top.
Yeah, it kind of shows you there's really no wiggle room for error here, right? I mean, look at that. As you said, 6 points for 1st through 5th. I mean, even back, still only, 40 points, basically, back to Thomas Sink in 10th. That's just 1 or 2 good races or bad races, depending upon your point of view. And you could find your way up to the front. The team points, however, let's take a look at those. And despite Richard Regan being a 2-time winner, his team is not currently in the lead. That's Whataback Racing at 311. Solpeck Precision up at 294. And then Regan Bow Green at 276. And then you see on down to Regan Bow Grinds, the Gold Octopus, Rapid Theft, and so on, therefore. So this points title looks a little bit more wide open. But unfortunately for Richard, even though he's doing great, his teammates, he kind of needs them to step up a little bit in order to reclaim that team title.
And there's still a lot of opportunities to go. And you talk about the team championship. Obviously, that was a big storyline when the season opened in Talladega. We saw a lot of teammates working together on the racetrack. You look at the schedule upcoming, not really a ton of opportunities for teams to work together on track, but you could, of course, assume team cars going to be pretty close to each other on speed. We'll see if that's a factor as this season continues on. Well, qualifying is underway now as we dip under the lights here in Kansas City, and want to take this opportunity to say a big thanks to all of our partners who make tonight's broadcast coverage possible. And it starts with at the top and our title sponsor, the Sim Gaming Expo. Get ready for the ultimate simulation gaming experience. The Sim Gaming Expo is bringing all genres of simulation and gaming technology under one roof. Join us September 5th through 7th in Chicagoland at the Shamberg Convention Center to try out the latest gear from the biggest brands in the industry, meet your favorite streamers, and celebrate your passion for simulation with our incredible community. Don't miss out. Get your tickets now at SimGamingExpo.com and be a part of simulation gaming history.
Also want to give a big shout out to Miracle Flow. Miracle Flow is more than just hair care, Evan. It's built for the bold. Now, they were born in Rochester, New York back in 2015. And Miracle Flow was created out of vision and necessity to level up the flow and the lifestyle that comes with it. Now, they're made right here in the USA, and their products are crafted for quality and performance that you can feel. Now, whether you're lined up with the boys to get ready to go to war or stepping out looking sharp, Miracle Flow keeps you looking fresh and feeling unstoppable all the time. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just real results that speak for themselves. Miracle Flow, because your flow isn't just style, it's a statement.
Want to say a big thanks as well to the folks over at Profit Python. Every second counts on the track and in making money. Like a perfect pit stop, the right deal at the right time means big profits. Introducing Profit Python, the ultimate Discord for deal hunters and side hustlers. Get blazing fast alerts on price drops, secret sales, and hidden jackpots before anyone else. The race to profit is on. Don't get left in the dust. Join now at WHOP.com. That's WHOP.com/Profit Python. Profit Python. Strike fast, profit faster.
Next up would be CTNN B1. Now, Evan, in racing and in life, every second counts. That's the spirit behind CTNN B1's Connecting Cure. They're a team of families, researchers, and advocates chasing bold breakthroughs for CTNN B1 syndrome. It's a rare genetic condition impacting movement and development. Now, they're funding cutting-edge research, they're fast-tracking treatments, and giving hope to families across the globe. One cure won't fit all, so they're driving many solutions for every child. If you want to make an impact, join the movement and help cross the finish line to finding a cure. You can head over to ctnnb1.org to get involved. CTNNB1, Connecting Cure, one mission, many statements.
Regan Bogue Motorsports is another presenting sponsor of tonight's coverage. Speed is just the starting point. Success is built through discipline, focus, and development. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, our iRacing coaching is built to develop winners. Through one-on-one training, we focus on the fundamentals that turn fast drivers into champions. Smart racecraft, disciplined decision-making, and pressure-proof performance. This isn't about chasing quick results. It's about building the foundation for lasting success. Regan Bogue Motorsports, developed for wins, built for championships.
One of my personal favorites, Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Sim racing is full of unforgettable moments, so make sure you capture them with Mr. Hedge's iRacing Photography. From action shots of your first win to slick stills of your latest livery, or even that wild crash you'll never live down, they can turn your races into memories worth sharing. Simple, sharp, and made just for sim racers. Check out mrhedge.co.uk and get your best moments in focus. Mr. Hedge, capture the race, relive the moment.
And last but certainly not least, and it is the title sponsor for tonight's race, the Tyler Manning Design 210. Tyler Manning Design brings bold branding to life for esports, motorsports, and everything in between. From striking digital graphics to print-ready designs, they create visuals that turn heads and set you apart from the pack. Want to stand out? Let's make it happen. Tyler Manning Design, built to be bold. A big thanks to them and to all of our presenting sponsors. As the qualifying session has drawn to a close, let's go trackside and take a look at your Sim Gaming Expo starting grid for round number 5. And in search of race win number 3, Richard Regan Jr.'s got the best seat in the house. His number 56 Toyota on pole position with a 30.554. He'll be joined on the front row by the Whataback Racing 13 of Ted Lowendick. Row number 2, we'll see the Reese-Bogue number 4 car and the outside lane P4 starter. That's the 62 of Mark Kalin for Solpec Precision Racing. On row number 3, P5 starter, the 63 of Drew Wilkie, and P6 starter, the Miracle Flow Motorsports 51 of Jeff Evans. On row number 4, inside P7 starter, Thomas Sink in the number 48 car, and Dustin Baumgartner, 16th spot, he'll be in P8. And to round out your top 10 starters, Bradley Hawley, the Whataback Racing 184 truck, starts in 9th, and to his outside, the Miracle Flow Motorsports 41 of Doug Evans is your top 10.
Let's try it again. Back at P11, Andrew Sharp in that 24 car is lined up next to Nathan Deering, who's part of Regan Bogue Motorsports. The number 2 of Steve Baker's back in P13 with row 7, with James O'Brien on the outside in P14. Steve Loving with that old classic Microsoft Windows throwback machines in P15, with Nick Hunter back in P16. 17 is Jacob Dunn, part of Tabita Rossi Esports. This is Brett Adams, part of the Adams Family Racing. And then moving back on to P19, Robert Barney is lined up next to Zachary Burnt back in P20.
And that takes us well past the halfway point in the field in row number 11. 21st place starter is going to be Garrett Austin tonight. 22nd will be Colton Easterday. 23rd on the grid, the 67, I should say, Nicholas Seraph. And to the outside, the 171 and Nicholas Schwartz in 24th. 25th place starter, the number 12 of James Morgan. To his outside in 26th, the 88 of Doyle Lawrence. P27 starter, the 89 is Zachary Williams. P28 on the grid, the number 60 of Colton Lane. And to round out your top 30, P29 is Stacy Hunter. 30th is Daniel Knight. They make up row 15.
Moving back into P31st is Evan Williams. He is the 6th truck lined up next to the 43 of Matt Scherf, one of 3 new drivers in the field tonight. Brian Tope and that Star Wars team in the 54 lines up next to Jacob Watson, the new addition for Tabita Rossi Esports, another new driver. And then Matt Gagnon is part of our drivers not allowed to qualify in P35. P36 is Mike Toomer, also on the do not qualify list. 37 is Nathan Ray, with 38th being Steve Brunner. And that, I believe, Evan, is a look top to bottom at our starting grid.
It is, and the lights stay on top of the pace car one more trip around before we will take the green flag and say let's go racing tonight for 75 minutes of timed action. So let's talk a little bit about this Kansas Speedway. We mentioned the second in a row intermediate racetrack, but it is not a carbon copy, far from it, to what we saw in Texas a week ago. 1.5 miles in length, progressive banking, 17 degrees on the bottom, 20 up top. It's also got that smooth transition through the tri-oval, Derrick, and none of those pesky kinks like you have on the quad oval at Texas that caused some headaches in NASCAR, Xfinity, and trucks over the weekend. This is one of my favorite car track combos on the sim. Is trucks here at Kansas will be racing into the evening. As you can see, it is a cool 82 degrees. Track temp not much higher at 84.
Yeah, this is a great track, you're right. And I think something that's going to be interesting to focus on as this night goes on, Evan. We're racing under the lights at Kansas, but these drivers practiced in the sunset. So this track tip is vastly different. A lot of drivers talked about the handling of the trucks during practice, how it was kind of tight in, maybe it kind of loosened up a little bit on the exit. I'm curious what the experience will be different, if any, racing under the lights. I suspect there'll be more grip, maybe more speed. The truck will behave different. So I'm curious to see how the drivers handle this at the start of this race.
Richard Regan on the front row in search of a third race win in 5 attempts. It's his field to control. Let's go racing in Kansas. Already seeing some 3 wide on the opening lap of this race as pole sitter Regan Jr. leads. Lap number 1, 3 wide, third on back to the inside. That's the 62 of Kalen. Gonna squeeze out Drew Wilkie, the 63 truck, the red and black Chevrolet. Nowhere to go. He tucks back in line, loses 2 spots.
Well, we talked about how Regan Motorsports really needed to have that performance be steady across not just Richard Regan, when there is teammate and co-team owner Reese Bogue right behind him for P2. So that's a good start so far. But look at this. There's Ted Lowendick now 2, 3 wide. People using the apron. That apron, I suspect, will go away pretty quickly. But for now, good use. Let's watch a replay. That's Brett Adams in the middle. Garrett Austin down through the grass. Cuts it. Nice smooth line. Lifts off the gas a little bit. It's going to rejoin the track here. But Evan, that'll put him pretty far back in the field.
Yeah, he's going to find himself right now center of 1 and 2, your leaders in turn number 3. So nearly a half a lap cost for him. There's a live look on the bottom side of your screen. Again, you are going to be a little bit slower on your own. It's not as critical to be out of the pack, say, at a Talladega than it is here at Kansas, but not ideal for him. And he'll certainly hope that this race has some yellow flag opportunities to be able to catch back up to the field and then get competitive again, because he was a 21st place truck in the qualifying session. Right now, it only shows for P37 on the racetrack. Some separation here and there. Most cars running the bottom lane to the middle lane. You see the white number 24 of Andrew Sharp at a side-by-side battle. You're on board with him now as the 5 and Nathan Deering looking to the inside at a battle for P11.
Now, something I learned from the drivers this evening while doing some pre-race talks, talking with Doug Evans and other drivers down, Jeff Evans, Bradley Holly, Mark Kane. A pretty consistent comment I got was the draft is important, Evan, but that draft is also really good. That bad air, that dirty air, whatever reference you want to use, it's really going to mess with the truck. So right now, Bradley Holly in the 184 right there, that purple Miracle Flow truck, he may be getting some speed off of the back of Thomas Sink or off of Bumgarner right there. But the aerodynamics and the way the truck drives changes a little bit back in the field. So you'll see he has a little bit harder time holding onto the truck, and it's just different. So they kind of hinted the draft is important, but you got to be careful with how much you stay in the draft.
Well, he wins the award for the best mood lighting in the room, and the purple and blue matches the colors of the Miracle Flow 184 on the racetrack, so branding is on point. And now would love to see that car at victory lane. And again, there's the POV perspective, the ultra-wide monitor. We've seen this perspective before this season. The ultra-wide for the on-track action, timing and scoring data, top left. Thank you for looking up to the top left right on cue. And on the top right-hand side, he's got the track map. So appreciate he's a perfect van of white. That was a great demonstration of what's going on behind the wheel for the driver of the 184. That's Bradley Holly.
Yeah, Brad, of course, celebrated this weekend. Of course, Star Wars weekend, May the 4th, Revenge of the 5th. Brad went out and bought a couple new Lego Star Wars sets and put them together over the weekend. So, not a surprise. We know Brad, he loves Lego, he loves Star Wars, and that was a good way to celebrate this weekend. So, happy for him. But look at the gap here forming, by the way. Look at this side-by-side racing. This is Drew Wilkie and Jeff Evans, 3rd and 4th. They're letting 1st and 2nd go away. But look at this big gap right here. This is James O'Brien and others on back. And they've got a massive gap here, Evan. Steve Loving on back to the front of the field.
Yeah, we really are starting to see this field separate a little bit, and a couple of cars leaning on each other. You've got the battle for, let's call it 3rd on back, and then this group here that we watch, all centered around the number 95 machine. This is all for, we'll call it 16th on the back. So a couple of gaggles of cars. There's a look up to the battle for 3rd on the back that I referenced before. That's Wilkie 63 to the outside and Reese Bogues number 4 on the bottom. 2 by 2, like we're coming to a restart, except it's at speed at 183. Can they get 184 miles an hour off and into turn 1? Wilkie seems to be comfortable trying to use that outside line. Increased banking up top certainly helps. You're going to be able to get a bit of a better run off of the corner. That's one of the things that I enjoy so much about the Kansas Speedway, and at least for this moment in time, give the spot to Wilkie, +2 on the night so far. He's at a race-high P3, and now we'll see if Reese Bogue can settle in line.
Whoa.
Cars behind him not going to make it easy. That 51 of Evans definitely had a nose up front, Derrick, and I think he backed out of it.
I think he had to, because, I mean, when Reese Bogue got to be 3 wide there, he kind of went down a little bit and found Ted Lowendick, went up a little bit and found Jeff Evans, and Evans said, okay, like, this is one of those moments where I don't want to back out, but if I don't, I may not finish the race. So went ahead and backed out of it here. Now you're looking on back from Ted Lowendick, of course, got the hockey tributes for the Columbus Blue Jacket players and such on the back of his truck. Of course, Theodore Jr. is painted on, or I guess pictured on the back bumper of this truck. But Ted, remember, came in tonight only 6 points off of the lead for the title. The problem is the guy he's running down is winning the race, Evan.
Yeah, that's always going to make life a little bit more difficult. I mean, we talked about the razor-thin margins, 3 points separating the top 4 drivers in the driver championship entering tonight. And listen, he could be having an even better night. You could be running P2, but if the guy you're chasing down is winning races, with the amount of, consistency that we're seeing in a Richard Regan Jr., it's going to be tough to do anything with it. Regan's still leading. He's led all laps that have been completed thus far in that number 56 Toyota. P2 runner, still Mark Kalin. Now, Kalin did not start in that position. He started back and forth, made a couple of passes in the opening laps, and you can see on the intervals left-hand side of your screen, those top 2 trucks about 1.3 seconds and change ahead of the next closest driver. So they are clearly the class of the field early in this first run.
And when you look at that camera shot right there, it kind of tells you why, doesn't it? I mean, Mark Kalin and Richard Regan are nose to bumper, for lack of better words, not literally, but close to it. And so they're pulling away. Then you've got these drivers. You've got Holly. You've got the 2 truck of Steve Baker. You've got Doug Evans, all these guys. When they get side by side, they're slowing themselves in the field down. And so, again, it's not Talladega. It's not Daytona. No one's yelling, get in line or stay in line or nothing like that. But it does matter a little bit here as far as that goes. A couple wall scrubs up there as well. That's something we'll see all night long in Kansas. But I'm impressed, by the way, with Mark Kalin. You and I have covered Mark race, previously in the Precision Racing League and seen him race before. And the consistency Mark has found in the past, 6 months of racing, Evan, has taken him from someone who, at times was kind of, I don't want to say a meme, that's a mean word, but known maybe for some wall hits and from silly race decisions, to someone who is consistently a contender on a week-by-week basis. I don't know if it's a confidence. What is he wearing? I don't know if it's a confidence. I don't know if it's, maybe a set of tracks he loves. I don't know if it's an update to the trucks and the system that's helping him. But this is a brand new Mark Kalin.
It is, and I think it gives you a little bit of confidence if you've got some race winner posters right there, right next to you. If you have any doubts, to take a glance over and remind yourself that you've got a good shot at this. Remember, it all started poorly for him. He finished 26th in that season opening race at Talladega, but since then, a race win at Bristol, a P10 at Dover, and a P4 at Texas. He has been super consistent, excluding that super speedway. So I think the numbers actually tell a worse story, and that's hard to imagine considering he's P2 in the points. But you wipe out that disaster of a Talladega, this guy's probably your points leader. Some other drivers, they're winning races or they're struggling. Not the case for him. He has been very consistent, and that's going to be really difficult for the rest of the field to counter over the course of a sprint season, 9 races in length, to crown this season champion. Let's take a second look at Doyle Lowrance on the top side of your screen there. Contact into turn number 1. Good piece of driving for the 88 to reel that truck back in. But much like we saw earlier with the troubles to Garrett Austin and others, it takes him out of the lead pack. And in fact, an update, looks like Lowrance has actually taken that car behind the wall after the contact. So the night may be done early for the SimGamingExpo 88 truck.
If he's going behind the wall there, that makes me think there must have been some contact or something that happened before, because there is a certain amount of damage you can have to your truck that will cause you to have to pit, but that didn't look to be it from that perspective. So kind of wondering. Now watch this back here. I noticed this in that replay. There's a little Williams on Williams action right here. Evan kind of came up to avoid Doyle Lowrance, and they end up getting into Zach Williams in that Napa-inspired machine. And then Zach up on the wall and slow there off. Well, something I've noticed here, Evan, as some races going on, remember we're already about 10 minutes into this race, and something I did hear from the drivers all night long, This is not a single groove racetrack, and the grooves matter. As you see a white truck up on the wall there, and now some close racing. But the grooves matter here, not just for handling, but for speed, for preference, even for gas mileage. I was told the difference in gas mileage from top lane to bottom lane tonight, Evan, is about 6 laps of racing, depending upon which lane you want to race in.
When we also talk about the potential fuel window as this race stays under green flag conditions for the moment, somewhere in the mid-40s. If this race were to go green, you could be looking at a 2-stop race to try to go to the end of this thing. So you figure the maximum, a 6-lap difference, times that by 2, 12 laps of difference on fuel. It's a big swing over the course of a race if this thing were to stay green. Looking at the battle for the number 4 spot, Drew Wilkie's pulled away a touch in 3rd. Reese Bogue and Ted Lowendick fight for 4th and 5th. The 13 advantage on the inside that time. Bogue up top, not able to carry the speed through the center of the corner. He's going to get the run off. That's what makes that outside so good. But Lowendick, all he's got to do is clear him in the center, pull up in front, and I think the spot is his.
Well, I think Ted needs to get a bit more confidence, too, about coming up the track a little higher. Because what that top lane does, where Bogue is it prevents the driver in the bottom from tracking out all the way up against the wall and gaining that speed. But Ted's leaving a lot of space between the two. That's sort of a thing to note. Ted could get up there a little higher and gain some more speed out of the corner. But now he's kind of backed it up. He's going to try now to run the high lane. And now you're going to see that white and pink truck, of Jeff Evans get in the picture here and see what he can do.
Evans watches on from the number 6 position as these two fight with each other. Can that number 51 truck find a way into the conversation? Right now, he has the benefit that 4 doesn't have, right? He went all the way to the outside wall on corner exit. 4-car can't do that. That's the disadvantage that Bogue is at when they sit side by side. Watch the white 51. He's going to run the middle for turns 1 and 2, but then as they come off the corner, he can unwind that wheel, go all the way up to the outside. 51 was a little bit loose that time, scrubbed off some speed. The outside going to be the big winner in the end as Ted Lowendick's 13 truck hangs on for the spot, and now to the bottom goes Evans under Bogue.
It was very interesting to watch in turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for Reese Bogue in the 4, though, because in 1 and 2, Bogue did track out as far as he could, almost up against Lowendick. And then back in 3 and 4, he left a pretty sizable gap between the two trucks coming out of 3 and 4, and that's how he fell back a little bit and why he's now under attack by Jeff Evans here. So, well, a good race so far. I don't want to jinx it yet. Zachary Williams black flagged. Let's see if we can get a word on that a little bit. But so far, a decent race. We're about 15 minutes in. Some good, solid, spread out green flag racing. That's what this track is known for, Evan. Of course, it's one of 2 tracks on the NASCAR calendar that opened back in 2001. The second one, of course, doesn't really exist. Or I guess it exists, but no longer used in Chicagoland, at least not in the NASCAR schedule. So this has been a pretty successful track. It's hard to believe it's already been almost, 24 years since this track had its first race.
Yeah, and you mentioned Chicago. I mean, both of these racetracks, I think, race somewhat similar. I've seen a lot of people who are good at Kansas be good at Chicago. And again, not carbon copies. I know we'll call these cookie cutter tracks from time to time, all the 1.5 milers, because they're easier to compare to each other than the other tracks on the circuit, but they all have their very unique nuances. And again, it's almost like watching a race at Homestead of Miami. Trucks on the bottom, trucks right up on the outside wall. Those are the options you're going to have here in Kansas. 27 laps in the books this time by as the clock in the top left of your screen counts down to 1 hour remaining. If this thing were to stay green, we're looking at about 110 laps to go in this race at the current pace we're running. That's where I pulled the number on maybe, if we stay green, looking at a 2 pit stop race to get to the distance.
Yeah, so wait and see if that does come true. We're hoping it does. Green flag pit stops are such a skill that maybe we've not seen pulled off so far in the SimGamingExpo Truck Series. But man, look at Doug Evans and Nathan Deering here. They're both all over the back end of Dustin Bumgarner. And Deering's trying to get up there, pulls up in front of Doug Evans. And you're going to see how much these trucks are moving around, Evan. It's kind of wild to see in a way. And I think that's what makes this fun. You mentioned it being a favorite of yours. This is something I look forward to typically. The track, at least at Kansas, I kind of honestly prefer it a tad bit more with Gen 7s or the next gen cars, if you still want to call them that. But the trucks always really do put on a good show here.
Yeah, they do, and here's a look off of the back of Bumgarner, who sits in the number 11 spot, and you can see the rough throttle trace bottom left of your screen as they, don't commit to full throttle on exit quite all the way through the corner. You do have to kind of feather things a little bit. The actual input's going to be a little bit more nuanced than what that will show you on screen, but again, once it's pegged, you'll know, all right, that's when they're back to full throttle. And again, topping out at speeds close to 180 or 178, I should say, into turn number 3, and they do get above 180 miles an hour as they head off into turn number 1. Right side of your screen, you see Zachary Williams being shown on pit road. That is unscheduled service for him as that truck now exits the pit lane multiple laps down. He was down in the box for extended service and not just tires and fuel.
Whoa, wow, look at that truck getting loose right there. That was crazy. That was Drew Wilkie, and that truck wiggled probably 3 or 4 times before he got it back under control. Just ripping the top of the track, but Ted Lowedick almost got us a mouthful of the back end of the 63 there.
Long way to go in this race, and while we don't see the 3 wide moments from before, there's still plenty of action going on all throughout the field, including this battle for third on back, which has just refused to go away tonight. Wilkie still got it. Lowendick, the pressure, and Reese Bogue, who was once the driver, trying to go for the number 2 spot, watching on. There's a second look at the moment for Drew Wilkie there after he got into the fence, or nearly got into the fence on the exit at turn number 2. Saw that thing twitch, but he was able to reel it back in. Every lap, though, as we watch these trucks from the third on back, they are losing time to the leaders. In fact, the last lap, Richard Regan Jr., more than a second, or a tenth and a half, I should say, faster than these trucks on back. So, yeah, they're going to slow each other down a little bit just based on the fact that they're racing, they're trying different lines, they're in dirty air. But as this run continues, what we're not seeing is signs that Regan may have pushed too aggressive early and is being caught by these trucks. In fact, those leaders are only continuing to extend their lead.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that Regan is doing this at a time when the lap times are falling off pretty massively, by the way. You can tell these tires are wearing off. Let's give an example here. Richard Regan last time, a 32.745. You can see it on the screen there at one point. But his fastest lap, Evan, a 30.865. We're talking almost 2 seconds of fall off in these tires. That's how much these guys are racing hard and how fast these tires are wearing off here. So as much as these drivers will be excited to get down pit road at some point and put some fuel in this car, they may be happier when they get to put new tires on this truck.
Yeah, they're going to be feeling a lot better for sure. You can use that 13 Lowendick as an example as he gets clear for the moment in this battle for third on back, and now he sits in the number 3 spot. His last lap time, 33.053. Again, that's going to be skewed a little bit because he's battling for position, but that is a full 2 seconds slower than the best lap that he put down back on lap number 2. So there is significant fall off, and unlike a cup car these days on the sim, Derrick, when the tires start to go and you'll see them just snap around or really start to plow, these trucks can get loose and they can drive them on the right rear tire a little bit. Not that it's recommended, but you're seeing these cars hanging out a little bit, getting loose, driving loose in the throttle. Nice move there by the 51 machine. Evans comes up to seal off Bogue, but Bogue crosses right back down to the inside.
Yeah, Bogue's going to try to make a move here, but keep in mind as drivers are making moves, Evan, we're only, 10 laps at most away from our first set of green flag pit stops as they got close. Reese Bogue almost leaning up on top of Jeff Evans there on the side of his truck, but we're getting closer and closer. And remember, we talked about how these different lanes could provide different amounts of fuel mileage. So I said 10 laps. That's the maximum. I got word from the drivers pre-race. We're talking 42 to 46 laps on a run of fuel. We're now working lap 37. So for some drivers, we could be as close as about 5 laps. For some drivers, 9 laps away from coming down pit road under green flag conditions.
And it works out that, the estimated race distance somewhere in the 130s if this race were to go green all the way. So you would really be wanting the latter end of that estimate, right? 42 laps, you times that by 3, it gets you to what, 126 or so? I mean, that's not going to get you to that distance, but 48 times 3, right? 3 runs, 2 pit stops, that's doable. So it may be easy for some drivers to get caught up in these battles for position, right? To want to be able to maintain track position, but 6-lap difference here, a 6-lap difference there, that could add up as this race goes on. Bogue was really loose that time off of the corner, lost a lot of speed, and through the center comes Bradley Holly, trying to go for the 2-for-1 special in the middle of the racetrack. He's got the 48 to sink on the bottom. Sideways is Bogue, who catches that truck, but not before Holly passes him also.
And it came close, by the way, to Thomas Sink maybe getting to the back of Holly, kind of just barely lifted or did what he had to do to not tap Holly. If he'd have tapped him off center there, just in the back, would have been the back left of that truck. That could have been really bad as well. So both drivers have gotten through that. And Bogue really is starting to fall back here, by the way, a little bit as this run's going. He's down 5 spots on the day. You know, despite maybe a couple people, that's one of the biggest losers as far as positions today. Here's Stacy Hunter, by the way, in that SimGamingExpo truck in the bottom. Watch this here. He's going to come up here with Brian Tope, who's just going to get tackled and body checked. Maybe we'll call that body check during the middle of NHL playoffs. And did that. I think I saw it happen a couple of your Las Vegas Knights a couple nights ago.
Yeah, that's we'll call it a hip check. That's probably a penalty in the regular season, but if we're talking playoff hockey, that's fine, right? No call, play on. And that was the case. No yellow for that one, obviously. That truck just took a trip through the front straightaway grass. We've had a handful of drivers have similar issues tonight. Some sort of a problem gets them off track on their own. But so far, no major incidents, knock on wood. All 37 cars started this race who were scheduled to, and none of them have gone to the garage. Thought that Doyle Lawrence may have ended his night early. That car did go behind the wall, Derrick. He's back on the racetrack, though, 12 laps down, 37th spot. The only other driver off of the lead lap is Zachary Williams. We touched on the fact that the 89 truck had some extended pit service off cycle earlier. He is 4 laps down in 36th. Other than that, 35 trucks still scored on the lead lap in this one. That is lap number 42 in this timed race goes behind us this time by. The bank may be open for pit service, but everybody going to want to push as far as they can. So we'll see how far beyond number 42 they can take it.
I'll wait and see how far they can get there. And, of course, as you did the math, that does mean the difference in maybe pitting an extra time or not pitting an extra time. So we'll see how that goes. It's the back of James O'Brien. Looking back on Robert Barney. Barney's had a couple of highlights here so far in the opening parts of this SimGamingExpo Truck Series season. Right now, it's back here running in P12, doing a solid job this evening. When you're 12th out of 37, you know, you're maybe not the run you want, but you're still above the average, and you know, it's kind of sitting back. I wonder how many drivers now, though. I keep noticing people are in line, and it's less and less common we're seeing passes made. It almost makes me wonder if some people are sitting in line on purpose to help with that fuel mileage problem.
Yeah, once some of these battles simmer down, there may be a benefit to taking it easy. That's not going to be the case for Drew Wilkie, though, because as we talk about that, he goes to the outside and still wants to fight with the 13. Meanwhile, we've got action on pit road. The 67 Nick Seraph is down pit road for service, likely the first pit stop in this race, coming at lap number 45. If he can match that number, he can do about 135 laps in this race on a 2-stop strategy. I still think that's a little short. We'll see how far the rest of the field can push it, though. As the driver radio channel starting to light up, I think we'll have more takers this time.
Yeah, we'll probably have more and more takers lap by lap. And if you weren't convinced before, wait till that 67 truck comes out and sets a couple blazing laps on new tires, and that will definitely convince you that you want to come down pit road and get those new tires on. So now we'll wait and see. Lowedick stays out. So does Wilkie. So does Jeff Evans. See Bradley Holly back there as we come around here again to the back straights. And lots of drivers right now, I'm sure, planning it out, talking out in their Discord channels and seeing what they can do to get out pit road. Drew Wilkie's get to the bottom. I'm guessing he's coming this time. No, he's not. I thought that move to the bottom, Evan, indicated maybe he was trying to get down there to have a safer pit road entry.
And a big hit to the outside wall for the 63 of Drew Wilkie, as on pit road is your race leader. 46 laps, going to be the magic number for Richard Regan Jr. He is down for service. Adams, Watson, Burner, they're all down pit road, but look at the battle still on the racetrack. It's for second on back. We were talking about maybe they were backing it off, trying to conserve some fuel, but they are going at it in this battle. Wilkie gonna pull the parachute. He ejects from the racetrack down to the apron and onto pit road from the number 2 spot.
Yep, he's going to the first of that group right there to come down pit road and see what he can pull off. And here again, this is Lowendick, this is Hollis Evans, that's Thomas Sink back there. Now, again, you made the point, from here, it feels safer that you could probably make it after another pit stop, right? When you put the driver should put on lap 46, it'd be 46.92, 138, which I believe would make it a safe two-stop run. But here we are again. Now here comes Ted Lowendick down. Other drivers saying, I'm surprised here. I mean, we're now on lap 48, and these drivers are still out here. I'm surprised there's this much gas in the tank, honestly.
Yeah, they're going a long way. And again, it's rough math because the thing that matters at the end of the day is the clock, not the laps. But again, the estimates is that this race will be 137 laps in distance. So you talk about the 46 number, that would be just enough to be able to get there as more drivers down and in for service this time. Lowendick, Deering, Loving, Hunter, Burnt, Easterday, Sheriff, you got Gagnon, Toomer, and more. Lots of drivers in. So as we hit number 49, I mean, you are plenty to the good.
Yeah, unfortunately, you saw on the top of your screen, by the way, Steve Loving, black flag speeding. Coming on the pit road. It was actually a pretty scary pit road entrance I got to see when it happened. But, wow, that was a moment right there. So lots going on. The pit roads are now getting busy. Richard Regan Jr., of course, has pitted here. And for the first time, some other than him is leading this race. Steve Baker being told spun on pit entry right behind the truck. Didn't want to hit someone. I think Jeff Evans in front of him, I think it was. And oh, don't move. Oh, Andrew Sharp was hitting.
Oh.
That's going to cause James Morgan to spin because of the moving truck. Man, Morgan, it just feels like there's bad luck to be found this season, Evan. I mean, last week, James Morgan had a truck go flying over him on the quad over at Texas. Had a really rough night at Bristol. Just sometimes you have a season that's not your lucky season, right? Watch here from James Morgan. You think he's okay? You know what? He might have been a little hot on the entry. The truck moving didn't help anything, but he might have spun that truck around on his own anyways upon second look.
Yeah, and he might have got a little bit of tunnel vision too, kind of matching the pace of the 24 as Sharp pitting ahead of him. And that may have kind of coaxed him into going a little bit hot in because the 24 was also a little bit hot coming onto pit road. But Oregon does loop it in the end. There is no contact on the pit lane, but that's going to be basically 10 seconds plus thrown away. Here's another onboard perspective on the entry to pit road. That's how it all started.
He did hit him.
With Baker going around.
He did hit Jeff Evans in the back a little bit there, and you see Baker's going to try and move around here and get it. And he has to move. I'm not criticizing the idea of moving, but during green flag pit stops, that's just a dangerous, dangerous thing to have happen. Well, back on track now. Lots of battles happening. There's Evan Williams. There's Nathan Deering. There's Jeff Evans. There's Thomas Sink. This is a battle back here for right around P9 through 13 on the track. And, of course, now that pit cycles are done, Richard Regan has went ahead and resumed the lead, Evan.
And we have seen every truck come down pit road for service at least once. Trouble. There goes the 6. Spinning and into the grass. Evan Williams back up on track. Big contact with Doug Evans. And the first caution of the afternoon will come with 45 minutes to go.
Oh, saw a truck spinning there late. But, boy, that looked scary right there to see Evan Williams going sideways there, and of course comes back up. So wait for the replay and see what happens to him. You see Doug Evans already has gone to pit road. By the way, I think I saw him involved late in the wreck. We'll wait and see what comes of that. Well, first round of pit cycle is done. The latest person pitting on lap 51, that being Thomas Sink, and a couple others here. But wow, let's wait and see the replay here and see what happens. But Evan, this is a pretty successful run so far for this group at Kansas.
And the timing of this isn't all that bad either. Here's a second look of the aftermath of the incident. Look out as that was one truck coming in at speed with the wreck happening for the number 54 truck. That was the onboard with Taupe. And now we'll watch what happened with the 6 machine, because that's where all of this started. They were 3 wide coming off of turn number 4. And I couldn't tell initially if the 6 was starting to lose it on his own or if he had help. But that thing almost went over. Here's the look. 3 wide off of the corner. Not a lot of space, and he's kind of fighting it, right? He pushes up. No room high. He ends up low. Almost goes up and over. There's no yellow at this point. We're still green. He's locked on the brakes, but there is where Doug Evans comes in. A mammoth hit to that truck, and that's where Evans gets all the damage. He'll take the tow to pit road. He and Williams both heavily damaged in this incident. Their night's likely done from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah, you would think so. Evans, unfortunately, just kind of got squeezed into 3 wide there. He had Jeff Evans up above him, had a truck below him. Watch it again. That's me, Thomas Sink below him, and that kind of just friendly fire, a racing incident, if you want to say it. That unfortunately, Doug Evans, the hit here is bad. Here's going to come Jacob Watson, by the way, one of the newer members of the league in a green and black truck, and he's going to just get clobbered by Brian Taupe. That's something that the league admins have been trying to address. By the way, Evan is, I know that the meme name we give to it's ARCA braking, because that's something you see a lot, unfortunately, in the ARCA series in real life. But I don't know. I know as a driver, sometimes it's hard to react, but when a caution's out, this isn't. Ironically, despite the fact this track was open in 2001, we're not 2001 racing. You can't gain a spot here after the caution's out.
You can't trick the flag stand, right? I mean, right. The sim is going to know, as you see Evans's perspective there. And Doug Evans also nearly involved in the incident. I do think it's worth noting, as that truck came back up the hill, there was no caution flag until well after Williams got hit by Evans. Williams gets hit by Evans, then the caution comes out, and the 54 is on the scene not that later. So I don't think it's as egregious as, hey, the yellow flag was out for 5-10 seconds. But I think that's a scenario where if you've got a live spotter that can help you out and give you a better understanding of what's going on up the road, it would certainly make things better.
Yeah, it would make things better. You're right. And that's a feature you and I talk about from time to time, but I'm surprised more drivers don't take advantage of. It's the live spotter feature. In fact, the only driver in the field tonight with a live spotter, Evan, is Richard Regan Jr., our race leader. He has Nick Byer now up on the box doing the spotting. Nick, of course, suspended for the season, so not able to race, but still able to provide help to a teammate here in Richard Regan. Yeah, I mean, the moment of caution will be the question, and the stewards and the officials will look at that. But, well, Regan's about to lead the field again.
First restart on the afternoon. Just closing in on halfway home from Kansas. Green flag is back in the air. So Regan leads down the back straightaway, side-by-side battle, going to be for second on back. The vast majority of these trucks stayed out. We did have some pitters. There are going to be some 22nd place on back. So up front, mixed wear tires in a battle for the lead, all chasing the 56.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to track as the run goes on. Maybe not because of the tires right now, but because of the fuel mileage. They could easily be, maybe 10 laps up on another driver as far as fuel. And that will give you confidence, by the way, to go run, because if we're chasing that fuel run and you're, 48 plus whatever gets us close to the end, well, the extra 10 laps you would think would make you super confident. But Drew Wilkie's driving like he's confident. He's now up to P2. Mark Kalin and Reese Bogue side by side for P3. And these guys are just scattered all across this racetrack.
And all of those thrilling moments and close calls that we saw off of the initial green flag going to be coming right back at you as this field is all bunched back together. Richard Regan has been pretty much uncontested up front. He has not led every lap in this race no longer. Those laps led by other trucks happened during the pit cycle, so kind of a knockoff stat, but all in all, Regan has been the dominant truck. If you're that 63 and P2 with Drew Wilkie, what can you do differently on this second run to match Regan? Because he looked good on the short run, he looked good on the mid run, and he looked good on the long run. That is a triple threat. So if you're that 63 truck, you need to just find more speed everywhere. He's on the bumper, looking to the inside. Regan doesn't give him a ton of space, and that 63 wants to push for P1.
I think if you're the 63, what you've got to do different this time is what he is doing, which is stay connected, right? Don't let Regan play. Use that draft, use that air, keep there, and then wait for Regan to make a mistake if he will. You know, it's not a guarantee Regan makes a mistake. He's one of the best at what we do, but wait and see if that happens. Doyle Lawrence down pit road, by the way. We'll see what comes of that. And you see Mark Kalin, Ted Lowendick, Reese Bogue rounding out your top 5. But again, I think if you are this group, whether it's Wilkie, whether it's Kalin, whether it's Lowendick, anyone, you have to stay connected to Richard Regan. That side-by-side racing is dangerous. It will likely kill your draft run. It will kill your connection and let him pull away again.
Watching from high above, you probably could have guessed this after seeing the incident, but Doug Evans' night has come to a close. He's gone behind the wall and will retire from this race. Doyle Lawrence out of the race now for a second time. Maybe for the last time does his night come to a close as well, just shy of making it to the halfway point, which is where we sit right now in this 1 hour and 15-minute race. 38 minutes to go from this moment. So we start to count down. The entire field still needing at least one more trip down to pit road to be able to get to full schedule distance. So we are far from done in Kansas City just yet. Looking at the 184 on the bottom, Bradley Holly has been chipping away, but a tip of the cap is deserved to that 26 Toyota on the outside. Robert Barney started 19th position right now in a battle for P6, by far the highest in the running order that 26 truck has been all night.
Yeah, doing a great job. You'll see on the side of your screen, Jacob Watson's pitting. Remember, he was run over after the caution came out. That truck is handled poorly, but to be putting it nicely since they went back green. The Gita still wasn't comfortable in the truck, so he went ahead and has come back down pit road to get more damage fixed. Look at that, by the way, Robert Barney bump drafting Bradley Holly down the straightaway. Not things I thought I'd say too much at Kansas, but sure enough, there he is, bump drafting. And man, there's Jeff Evans now trying to make a move on Thomas Sink, on Dustin Bumgarner trying to get caught up here. This is a whole new level of racing since that caution came out.
And still waiting to see, is anybody going to be able to make a difference at the very front of the field? Thomas Sink's 48 truck watches on as Dustin Bumgarner in the number 16 looking to the bottom. Trouble behind this, though. Caution flag number 2 on the afternoon. It is the 11 of Steven Bruner up against the inside wall, and it will slow things down again.
I believe the 67 is going to be involved in this. Yep, right there, came up and caught the back end of Bruner. Send him on around. Does Bruner get it stopped? Nope. Passenger side door right into the inside wall here at Kansas. Well, that brings out caution number 2 for the evening as we went from, you know, a very green flag race. I almost said a different pace, but not really, because remember, we're not lap racing here. We're time racing. So whether it's green or whether it's yellow, the time is still ticking. But Bruner, we'll see if he can get that car repaired or what can come of it. I guess good news maybe for Jacob Watson, who was able to get off pit road and turn some laps. Watch it again. Yep. No question there. Stroftis comes up and gets in the back end of the 11.
It's interesting. I mean, sometimes you'll see that, and the truck on the bottom was, you know, very clearly sideways. I couldn't really diagnose what's going on with the 67 machine there. I mean, it appeared to be under control. Yeah, I don't know if he thought, okay, that 11 has got such a run on the outside that I'm just going to tuck in line behind him or what, but he just took him out, cleared him out in the left rear. For Seraph, I think the benefit is not a ton of damage. Not so fortunate was Bruner. Well, here they come, though. Almost every single truck down pit road. This is still outside of the, we think will be the fuel window to the end of this race. So what's the decision going to be? They all were down about 20 laps ago. Do you stay in the box long enough for 4 tires at fuel? Looks like most of the field says yes. First truck off on 4 at fuel is Regan, but Robert Barney in the 26, we just talked about him making up big in the track position game. He is the first truck off, the only truck to go for 2 tires only, and that'll cycle him through to the number 2 spot on the leaderboard behind only Brett Adams, who in the 23 truck did not pit at all, and at the moment is scored as your leader.
Yeah, I was wondering at first in my head as I was watching pit stops happening, is, man, I'm unsure what to think of Brett Adams staying out, what those tires will be like. But now Robert Barney takes 2. Now I'm wondering who maybe is going to have the harder time. No tires or 2 tires. I don't know. That's going to be interesting. The 2 tires, I guess, initially might be better, but maybe a little sketchier as time goes on. I'm not sure here. Well, I've heard that the race leader has claimed the bottom lane on the restart here as they're going to start to line up 2 wide. And I don't know, Evan. I'd almost probably rather be on no tires than 2 tires. That sounds weird, but those 2 tires can behave pretty wildly.
It is going to be strange, and you've got a good sample, call it a charcuterie board of strategy, if you will, at the front of the field, because you've got Brett Adams on none. You've also got your P2 runner, the number 26, Robert Barney. He's on 2. And then basically everybody from a third on back, Richard Regan and company, 4 tires in fuel. So pick your favorite. You're going to see how they all work out as we get set for another restart. One more note is we estimated, all these drivers are really going to have to get about 46 laps out of every fuel run to be able to make this race happen in a 2-stop strategy. Well, these yellows are not shortening the race. We're still racing 75 minutes, but it is shortening how many laps will happen in those 75. So how tight the fuel strategy has gotten a little bit more loose with the addition of these 2 sets of pace laps. Pace car down and in, though. Brett Adams, first time tonight. Control car on the inside. Green flag flies. It's a good jump on the bottom. The 26 of Barney could not get going up top. And here comes Regan to the inside and to the race lead just like that.
Yeah, did a great job. Really got a jump, but got to the bottom of the track as fast as possible. Mark Kalin followed him down, as did others. Oh my gosh. Both of them went down almost like IndyCar style to try to block the run, and I thought for sure that was going to end terribly, but I think Kalin backed out a little bit. Now Kalin right now is sort of the meat in an RBM sandwich here, as now Bo's going to try to move up, and they all use the apron to complete a lap here.
Yeah, it was a heck of a block, and the 62 of Kalin showed a little bit of restraint there, but did put the bumper to the 56 truck, and now he's going to get really tight on the exit of turn number 2. Just no arc for that truck into the corner. It's tough to enter so low. It hurt him in the center off, and now that 4 Reese Bogue top side, a little bit more of a conventional line, is going to pull alongside, and what you don't want to do is make Richard Regan Jr.'s life easier. Well, battling for second, going to do exactly that, even just for a moment. So Bogue in line, P2. Regan's got the benefit, though, up front of picking whatever lane he wants. He's clear of both of them. Only make it, though, by a half a truck length off of turn 2.
Yeah, Reese Bogue really is coming alive here and trying to get up there and put real contention almost back to the back end of Richard Regan. Just kind of almost maybe a small bump draft at most, nothing more. But you're right. Regan's kind of controlling both lanes. It's kind of, we keep making these super speedway comparisons tonight, Evan, but it feels, oh, hold on. There's a car in the grass. Is that Colton Lane, maybe? I think I saw back there. He's Colton Easterday. Sorry, the wrong Colton is the car down there. But it's when you watch Richard Regan go back and forth through there from the from the turn to the straight to the turn to the straight. Well, hold on. Let's come back to this. Watch. He's in contact with Nick Sharaf here. I think. Yep. Another one of those hip checks you talked about earlier.
Yep.
But coming back to this point about Regan, it's kind of almost that what people call that Dale Jr. style of super speed racing, right? He gets to kind of control both lanes. He's kind of controlling the draft, make sure no one gets the better run. The only thing that's really changed now is now it's Kalin up top and Bogue on the bottom.
And they have flip-flopped roles, and the outside seems to be the winning one. It's Kalin to second. Kalin to the inside. Can he go all the way to the race lead? He's going to push up, though. Contact in the battle for the race lead. Kalin leaning on Regan, who is able to hold him off for the moment. And the 56 stays P1. Bogue in third, watching on, and don't look now, but more trucks want in on the action. Way up top, Holly's in fourth, Lowendix in fifth, even tossed Drew Wilkie into this conversation. 6 trucks within a half a second of the leader as we close into the final 30 minutes.
And I think it's important to say, you and I get excited about that move that Kalin makes where he slightly leans into Richard Regan, because that's a skill. That sounds weird to say, but that's a skill that you get up there that close to the truck and you ride, but you don't wreck him. Unfortunately, the trend across iRacing at times would have been for Caitlin to come up and not stop coming up and sort of spin the back end of Regan around. But Caitlin got up there, barely made contact, got comfortable, and then backed off of. That's why that move is exciting, because that's a lot more skill than what it looks like.
Yeah, those are two of the very best drivers in this series, giving it 110% with absolutely no margin for error. A lot of drivers have been using the apron on the front straightaway basically all night long. We haven't touched on it, but that's a white line, so it is fair game. You can go down there and use it all you want, and look at how different the corner exits there were for Regan and for Kalen. 56 slow and slides up, the 62 fast and cuts under. It is a high-speed game of chess, but so far, Kalen has been there but has not been able to best Regan, who continues to defend blow after blow.
Yeah, doing a great job is Regan. But, I mean, he has really been, and he's been an attack, and you can really tell, by the way, you mentioned that with these two sets of yellow flag laps, that the concern about gas is less, right? The concern about fuel mileage and whatever is less, because people are racing that way. Remember in the back, in front for this race, we would see people just kind of, sitting in lines, kind of hanging out, just kind of maybe drafting, but this is not the case. Now you see lots more side-by-side battles. You're seeing a little bit more of a bump draft almost. You're seeing Mark Kalen get up here and run side by side and trying time and time again. The problem is he's getting pinched down in that corner every time, and Regan is sort of keeping him back there, but the intensity of the battles has picked up a little bit here.
It really has. And again, we are still not in the final window to be able to get to the end of the race on fuel as they run. An estimated 54 laps would still need to be complete to run out the 28-minute clock. They've already been out there for now 12 laps since we last pitted. That's 54 laps. We think that is just on the outside. I think the longest we saw anybody go might have been 48 or 49. So does anybody at the tail end of the field go into super save mode? Do you think that you can trust the field enough to stay green for the distance? And could you pull off an incredible sleight of hand? That's a risky move, because the way that these trucks have been running, I would not be putting any chips on betting that this thing is staying green to the end. But that option is there. It's a 5-lap difference between what we think they can go and what they would need to go to be able to get to the end of the race. Even further back, mid-teens, look at this battle. The 5 and Nathan Deering on the bottom. The 34, that's Garrett Austin in the middle. And the outside, the 28 is Zachary Burnt. 3-way battle. The 5 wins out on the outside.
Yeah, great bit of racing. Now James O'Brien's going to move to the bottom, get behind Garrett Austin in that black and gold inspired truck. You see Nick Hunter's on back there. Colton Lane's back there. There's Nathan Deering, by the way. Seems sitting comfortable. That's a nice big racing seat right there, isn't it? Just looks pretty comfortable. Got the VR headset on. And doing a pretty solid job here so far tonight. Looks pretty comfortable. Evan, I was thinking earlier when we were watching Mark Kalen, now when we're watching Nathan Deering, these guys are brave for having webcams on, right? Because not everyone's as calm and cool as these guys when racing. I'm a talker when I race, and I talk to myself. I get not emotional, but I get verbose with myself. I talk to myself and talk out strategy myself. Get mad at myself. I would not want to be on webcam as a driver. I don't think. I can't bite my lip.
Yeah, you think of, like Michael Jordan sticking his tongue out. If I'm focusing, I'm doing that and just embarrassing myself on the webcam. So it's not a good look. The first thing I actually thought of with the onboard there with Deering was, he seems to be a big Hendrick fan, right? Got the Jimmy Johnson door. It's got the Dale Jr. Sports Illustrated cover when he won the Daytona 500. So I thought certainly Nathan Deering would be driving a Chevrolet, right? No, he's driving the Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, and I'm sure that's part of the Reagan Bogue Motorsports Green and the larger RBM Group collective. So it's a Chevy guy in a Toyota. So there you go. You can compromise.
You can compromise. That's very true. All right, well, here we are, 25 and a half minutes left to go in this race. So things to talk about, if we have a moment here, Evan, there's a couple of new drivers in the field tonight. We'll kind of show them off here, just give them some recognition. We have here tonight, Matt Scherf is back in the field. He is the 43 truck. He's back here racing through the field. Welcome in, Matt. There he is. Maybe not the initial opening night he wants to have in the league, but exciting night, a good night of good green flag racing. Just in front of him, by the way, that black and green truck, we saw him earlier, is Jacob Watson, one of the newest members of Tabula Rasa Esports, a Texas native, a veteran, so I want to thank him for his service. But a couple new members. Doyle Lawrence, we talked about a little bit tonight, I think now is out of the race. Unfortunately, we can't show his truck. But they are replacing 3 drivers. Nick Byer, unfortunately suspended for the season due to incident and caution points. And then Austin Hunter has stepped back for the season, as has Brandon Chatley, went ahead and voluntarily stepped back for the season. So good news for the league is that while unfortunately we are losing some drivers that are, members of the community, this league has a wait list. And that's such a positive thing to say for a league, right? I mean, you have a wait list. There are many leagues across iRacing who will never have that quote-unquote problem.
Yeah, and the first thing I think of, you think of, Bristol Motor Speedway, right? For years and years, for decades even, right? Had a wait list to get season tickets, and it's not really that way anymore. So when you have a league or any establishment that is in, I would call it its prime, right? I mean, this group of drivers got together pretty quickly to put Premier Sim Racing together, to get the SimGamingExpo Truck Series together. Who's to say that this doesn't go for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? There will come a day where that wait list is not there anymore. So enjoy it. Enjoy the community that you've been able to foster. For those new drivers who have an opportunity to come in and join this series, I hope they really appreciate the community that they're joining and becoming a part of. And we're happy to see things thriving with Premier Sim Racing. Full fields, competitive trucks, good racing. That checks all the boxes in my book, if you ask me. We are now 20 laps into this latest green flag run. I think the longest run we've had since the yellow flag came out that kind of broke this race up 2 yellow flags ago. And what we're seeing is pretty similar to from the jump. Kalen, Holly, Bogue, I mean, they were certainly, I think, Derrick, more aggressive off of this restart than they were at the start of the race. But in the end, Richard Regan Jr. is the fastest truck on the racetrack. And once more, he is pulling away his advantage for P-Run right now, about 6/10.
Yeah, he really is pulling away pretty quickly and pulling it off. Here is James O'Brien and Nick Saroff, by the way. So these guys are racing back here for P18 and 19. I want to come back to that point you made about community and about how the league is sort of in its prime and succeeding. And think about, in today's world, there's so many entertainment choices and so many things to distract you or keep you entertained in this world. We're right in the middle of 2 different sports playoffs with the NBA and the NHL. We're right in the middle of springtime when people want to go outside and go on vacation and go on spring break and do all this stuff. And here you are as a league still pulling 37 drivers at a time to come in on a Wednesday night. That speaks to the community. It speaks to the success. It speaks to the organization of this league. Watch this here real quick. This is going to be tight. That's Jeff Evans right pulling up in front of Drew Wilkie. And Wilkie just barely taps the wall there. But I just want to one more time praise this league, Evan, and say, again, it just shows how strong of a community these guys are, how they respect the process, all the work the admins put in, and it shows based on the field size.
It really does. I mean, 37 trucks strong, mid-season, round number 5 and 9. A good sign of things to come. And again, a lot more competitive races still to come this season. In 1 week's time, we will head to Rockingham, the rescheduled trip to Rockingham, taking place at North Wilkesboro. We'll head to Charlotte, Nashville Superspeedway, and then this current season will come to a close with the June 4th race, round number 9 at Michigan International Speedway. It is every Wednesday night right here, Green Flag TV. You do not want to miss any of it. Because there is a lot still to go. But we're getting down to crunch time, right? 21 minutes on the board. And if these drivers don't have something in their bag of tricks to get an extra 5 to 10 laps of fuel out of these things, we're going to be talking about the fact that somebody could pit at any moment. Now, I think you're going to see drivers wait as long as they can, Derrick, because the risk is you come down and pit, even if it's just for a splash, you're going to be losing so much track position, maybe even losing a lap for the drivers who are further back. That's what they want to avoid. But again, I think everybody is starting to formulate the plan. When do I pit? How much fuel do I need to put in when I pit here and there? How many drivers are going to put extra fuel for overtime? Is that's a normal thing that these drivers would take into consideration? But the way the clock works here, we've had some really interesting finishes where we haven't necessarily had overtime, but you've gotten a bonus lap out of it. So you're trying to do all of this math while this is going on. They're still 3 wide. This is for 17th on back. So you're trying to juggle all these things while still going 3 wide and fighting for position.
Yeah, a lot going on right now. That's why I'm more surprised more drivers don't use the crew chief spotter option Arson gives. Here's James Morgan in that 12. He's down pit road. Now, I sort of think in a way maybe you missed the biggest risk these drivers are taking. There's Jacob Dunn, by the way, a teammate of James Morgan. Right now, you are putting yourself at risk. You have to hope that this green flag cycle concludes before a caution flag comes out. If a caution flag comes out, you're going to possibly get stuck a lap down. And recovering from that, it's probably at best highly unlikely. So that's the other risk here. You see all those times on the side of your screen. Robert Barney's down. You see Jacob's done time, the high 14s in that pit stop, by the way. That's why I would not be encouraged to come down pit road. I would have the what if fears, right? I don't know if it's FOMO. Maybe it's the opposite of FOMO, of being scared the yellow comes out and I get stuck.
Yeah, and there is no crystal ball to look into and see the future. For every call you make that's right, there's going to be 2 calls, it feels like, that work out wrong in the end. I also think some drivers are going to have different objectives through this. As we watch the battle between Holly and Kalen, it's for second place, and it's now already 2 full seconds behind Regan, who is really starting to put the hammer down. Some drivers are going to make a move, Derrick, to try to win this race. You may see some more risk out of Holly and Kalen, knowing, Regan's 2 seconds ahead of us. He might be 3 seconds up by the time we're actually pitting. I might make a bit of a risk, and I'd rather maybe finish 4th than 2nd if it means I'm making a move for the win. So you will see some drivers maybe make a bit more of an aggressive move. Other drivers, that's not their objective, right? If they're P9 and they like that number because they're up 10 spots from where they started, they're going to make a safe call and just try to maintain. And we've seen a handful of drivers down pit road the last couple of laps. Easterday, Wilkie, Schwartz, they're down pit road now. We saw Morgan, Barney, Dunn, and others. I think Watson was the other one who pitted a couple of laps ago. So drivers are currently executing their final scheduled pit stops of this race.
Yeah, I agree. And so more and more drivers are taking that call. What happens sometimes is, as the first driver does it, hold on, come back to that. Here's Holly, here's Kalen. Man, Holly had the pass for a second and slid way up the track, and Kalen just went ahead and pulled the crossover and will, I think, take the spot here down into 3 and 4. But what happens sometimes is as the first couple drivers come down, whether it be Morgan, whether it was Dunn, whether it was Barney, and you see those guys on new tires, and you see how fast they're running, it inspires you to want to come down and have those new tires too, right? It inspires you to want to take that shot here. Now, and the good news for people like those guys who pitted already, which is now pretty much like, I think, 9th on back in the field, is they have new tires. But watch this real quick. This is Garrett Austin.
Whoa.
That's Nick Hunter that he avoided. And there's Morgan. Oh, Austin in the grass again. I think I've seen already tonight. But these guys have new tires. And so the lap times they're going to run, Evan, is like 2 seconds faster than the leader right now. These guys on new tires are going to be obvious to spot when they come around the track, because they're going to blow by these guys who haven't pitted yet.
And normally, I would say that will all work itself out, right? If you have a long green flag run after the pit cycle, yeah, the trucks who pit first, they're going to get on fresher tires sooner. They're going to be ahead of you when you pit if you're one of the later trucks to pit, right? On a normal run, though, that's fine, because then you have the full run where then the later trucks who pitted have the better tires, they catch up. You don't have that, right? This is not a full run to the end of the race. As to pit road comes your leader. So yes, there is risk associated with pitting too early, because if a yellow comes out, it catches you out. But if you pit too late, you won't have the opportunity to take advantage of the fresh tires that you're putting on that everybody else who pitted it before you has already been reaping the benefits of. So Regan at some point did have to respond with more and more top running trucks to pit road. He is going to have enough time putting fuel in it to put right side tires on the truck. Is he gonna go for four tires, full service for Richard Regan?
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but I understand your point of right now with only 15 minutes left, you do kind of start to wonder if he has the time to really, get the full benefit out of that. Brian's Hope, black flag, see the top of your screen there. Ted Lowendick, your new fastest lap of the race. But I would not have been surprised if Regan would have went 2 tires there and minimized the time on pit road, hoping that that would have been the difference maker. But now here's Mark Kalin. He's now leading this race and going on around. And Mark is often known to make fuel strategy calls to kind of see what he can make happen because of a gas tank. So I'm in no way surprised that Mark Kalin's down here. You see the time, or the laps, pardon me, on the left side of your screen since they pitted last. Mark Kalin and Nathan Deering, also Zachary Burnt and Nick Seraph, 36 laps, as is Garrett Austin. Those are the last 5 not to pit. They have to pit at some point. There's no way they're going to make it, I think, another 14 and a half minutes of racing. But look at that. There's James Morgan. Those are some new tires I talked about. Watch how Morgan pulls away in the corner. That's the difference between old and new tires.
Yeah, big swings. Remember earlier, this is not the longest run of the night, so it's not going to be quite so dramatic. But earlier in this race, we saw drivers running lap times that were 2 seconds slower on their oldest tires than they were on the new ones. 3 wide, an important battle for Richard Regan in the number 56 truck, because this is going to net out to be the battle for one of the top positions. The 51 of Jeff Evans is your net leader. There he is. Remember, he was not really in the conversation for position, but he came down pit road a couple of laps before Regan. He got the fresher tires sooner. He got the track position. So that is why currently he is the highest running truck that can make it to the end of the race, maybe with the exception of James Morgan. I think Morgan also can go to the end. He pitted the earliest, I think, out of anybody in the top 10 right now. Morgan's 12 truck can likely go the distance in P6. So Morgan, Evans, and Regan, I think 1, 2, 3 in the net lead battle. And then you've got the battle for the actual lead that you were looking at with Kalin and Burnt. So a lot happening right now on the racetrack.
And I think what's benefiting Evans and benefiting Morgan a little bit is, look at this battle, this conglomerate right here, this gaggle, if you will, of trucks. They're all fighting that dirty air we talked about as the night goes on, right? But you saw Evans up there, you saw Morgan up there, and a couple of drivers who pitted early, and they got clean racetrack up ahead. And I think it's understated sometimes how important that can be to run your line. You could use your lifting points or your braking points, maybe a little bit of brake at times just to kind of rotate the truck into the corner. You're not worried about what someone else is going to do around you. You have that comfort and that calm, and that's Zachary Burnt. He's barely going to get it on pit road. Wow, thought for sure maybe he'd missed it, but nope, there he is down pit road. That's one of those trucks we talked about. You need to come down. So now just a couple left. Seraph, Austin, and Mark Kalin are the last 3 left to pit here at Kansas.
Let's watch this again for Burnt. I thought maybe he got spooked by the truck behind, but I think he was just overspeed the whole time. I mean, that was nowhere close. And honestly, basically coming to a stop and ensuring you make the entry way faster than going around for another lap. So many drivers notice they're going to miss it and just abort and add 20, 30 seconds to the time. So that was disastrous for Burnt. But in terms of damage limitation, I think he made the right decision at the right moment. And there are now 3 trucks who have yet to come down pit road. Your net leader is at the top of your screen there, as Jeff Evans in the 51 has been able to get around James Morgan. So has Regan. So Evans sits 4th. Regan sits 5th. Up front, we have yet to see pit stops from Kalin, Austin, and Seraph. If they wanted to go the distance in this race, they're looking at 63 laps on fuel. I think I can say with a decent amount of confidence, Derrick, that's not going to happen. So curious if they're going to try to run this all the way to the end to maybe try to catch a yellow, benefit from track position. I think Austin and Seraph in different positions because, they weren't in the battle for the race lead. So it kind of makes sense for them to take a bit of a gamble. But, I mean, Kalin had been up there in this. So I do find the call interesting for the 62. We'll see if it works out in his favor. See more trucks down pit road. That's from the tail end of the lap as Matt Sheriff is on pit road for service, just waiting on the top 3. And eventually, The battle for the net lead is going to be on, and here it is. It's for fourth on the racetrack right now, but it is likely going to be for the win. And on the inside of turn 3, Richard Regan Jr. handily makes the move on Jeff Evans. He'll take over fourth and now sets his sights on going back to P1 in search of a third win in 5 races. Bit of a waiting game now, as we'll see how far can Kalen, Austin, and Seraph go. They likely can still push things a handful more laps, but I don't think any more than 3 or 4, so they are going to have to come down pit road soon, and they are the only ones who have yet to come down and pit on this green flag run. Kalen enjoying some laps led. I think that's the added benefit of being in the truck up in the number 1 position. But again, he's 16 seconds ahead of Austin and Seraph, who are very clearly in a different pit strategy in this race. As you can see, Richard Regan Jr. slicing around more lap traffic. That's the number 11 of Stephen Bruner to the outside. Lapped car running in the number 35 spot. And Regan has secured the most laps led in this race. There is nobody in contention to compete with him for those honors. So what a dominant showing it has been for Regan. Earlier in the night, we talked about, how good things really had been for Steve Loving and some of these other drivers, right, who did not get the results that they wanted out of the season opening race in Talladega, but have been really good since then. And for Richard Regan Jr., you may wonder, has it been any worse? Not really. I mean, his worst finish was Talladega. That seems to be the case for a lot of your championship leaders as we jump in and watch the battle for 9th here between Wilkie and Morgan. But since then, he's got a P2 in Bristol, 7th place in Dover, race win in Texas. So it has been very good since for the likes of Richard Regan Jr., who will continue to be your championship leader and hopes to extend on that championship lead as we are now closing in, Derrick, on the final 8 minutes of this race. Regan has gotten around Sarah for 3rd on the racetrack.
And as we get to this part, watch Kalen here as we come down here. It's a pretty great great entrance, pardon me. Just really got it down to speed at the right time. No threat to speeding, but attacked pit road. I like that. So he'll now surrender the lead. This will put Garrett Austin temporarily up in the lead before Richard Regan gets back up there and likely assumes the race lead. But I was in my head all day long as I kept thinking about this track tonight, Evan, thinking about Kansas, and you make the connection to the band, and I keep thinking of this reference. I first heard you say it as part of the eNASCAR, or back then the Peak Antifreeze Series. You used to call it the point of no return. Back before we had green, white checkers, and back before we had that option. Well, there's no track more fitting if you think of the name Kansas because of the song in and of itself, Point of No Return. We're just about there in this race.
We are closing in on it with an estimated 13 laps to be complete over the course of these next 7 minutes or so. And that has completed the pit cycle for all trucks but Garrett Austin, waiting only on the 34. But he could have an extra fuel cell in that truck. It ain't going to make a difference on Regan, and he just said now over the radio that he's going to be coming to pit road this time. So Regan will stand up front. Will it be unopposed? He is on the same tires as here comes pit road for Garrett Austin. And spins it into the wall. Should stay green. He is off of the racing surface. Not the first time that's happened tonight. It's a sneaky, tricky pit entry here in Kansas.
Yeah, it really has been. Hasn't just been kind of a couple. We saw James Morgan get around. I think we saw maybe the 2 car, I think it was, get around earlier. So a couple of drivers have had that unfortunate luck there on pit road. Well, the references for Kansas, we've sort of avoided them all night. Not just the band, but of course, the stereotypical Wizard of Oz references. It does feel like maybe Richard Regan thinks there's no place like home, though. He is happy to be back at the front of this field.
So with that, having cycled through, you look to the numbers, and I just don't see anything that would suggest that somebody has got something left in the tank for Richard Regan, right? There were a couple of drivers who stayed out much longer and will have a tire benefit late in this race. But Richard Regan pitted 19 laps ago. He's your race leader. The only truck that has a tire benefit on him would be Nathan Deering in 17th spot, 14 seconds back. That is not a driver that's going to threaten him for the race lead. So you've got Baker on board, fighting with Burnt in front of him. That's a lapped car in between he and Dustin Bumgarner in a battle for P8. But looking at the numbers and looking at the trends, unless Regan throws something away here, he should have the pace to be able to hold on for these final 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's a term we use in sports, the mini sport, about this. You know, this is yours to lose, right? It's no one else's to win, it's yours to lose. And that's where Richard Regan is at this point. As we're watching onboard from Mark Kinley, he's now going to run down this truck in front of him and likely make the pass here in the corner. This is Steve Baker. That's Dustin Bumgarner up ahead. That's Steve Baker, sorry. That was Mark Kinley with the black and yellow in front of me. That's Steve Baker, the number 2 truck we're riding on board with. I do apologize for that, but you know, I wonder. So first off, let me say, Evan, I think for this league as a whole, for the admins, for the drivers, for fans, this is a confidence boost. This race is for the leagues. We're now watching Richard Regan make his way around a lapped truck here. This race is a confidence boost, right? We've talked about some of the numbers in the past. The admins have been focusing on the numbers of how many cautions per race, and of course, the Bristol race really boosted that number up as far as average cautions per race, but I mean, right now, here we are, 3.5-ish minutes to go. Only 2 yellow flags. This will be a major confidence boost to this league. But now next week we go to Rockingham, and I hope this isn't just like a one-off trend.
Yeah, we've had plenty of long green flag runs in this race, right? This one a little bit skewed. The pit stops were earlier, but they all needed the pit cycle to be able to get to the end of the race. So 2 green flag pit cycles in an hour and 15-minute timed race. We had some close calls, some incidents here and there. Some drivers not going to make it to the end of this race because of those incidents. But all in all, I think a showing that the entire field can really be proud of, as there are a few spots still up for grabs. One of them in the battle for P8 right here. Baker's been able to shake off the lap truck of Matt Scherf, who had been in the way. And now it is a straight-up fight in the battle for 8th on the racetrack. Baker has the older tires of this duo, but that is not putting him down as he's staying close to Bumgarner. And look at the 43 truck on the bottom. Again, not for position, but Scherf just kind of stuck amongst these leaders.
Yeah, doing a great job racing around the leaders. And this is what you do as a rookie, by the way, which Scherf is to this league at least, and building that trust and confidence of your competitors, right? The way he's racing them right now, he's, you know, passing as he has the speed, but he's not leaning on them. He's not bumper to bumper. He's not, you know, door banging. He made it pass clean. He went ahead and got ahead. And that really does a lot for you as a rookie in a league to help the driver say, hey, that's a good guy. Like, I trust him. You know, he's not out here being reckless and stuff like that. So that's a really awesome moment to see for Matt Scherf. Here's the battle back here for 14, 15, and 16 to Schwartz. This is Nathan Deering and Jacob Dunn back in the 3 truck. And they're fighting pretty hard. Dunn seems to be the back of the 3, but Deering, man, looked like he got really tight off the corner. I thought for sure he was going to be up in the wall.
Yeah, one thing is, you know, this race is going to end on about a 30-lap run to the end of the race. So these tires are going to be far from new, but they're also going to be far from the worst that they've been, right? We really saw drivers starting to slide, have trouble with the handling on the longest of the green flag runs in this race. That's not the case coming to the checker. They've still got a little bit of oomph to them, and it allows these drivers to be that much more aggressive as now we turn our sights up to the race leader. Richard Regan Jr. has now led more than 100 laps in this race. It is maybe going to be 2 laps away the next time by from, again, looking for race win number 3 in 5 starts this season. Just pure masterclass thus far, and now he holds his breath.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, again, unless he does something really, really insanely silly here and throws us away to Bradley Holly, I mean, we're about 2 laps to go even with the guys at this point, and it's got to be anything happens. If a yellow comes out, he wins. He's just got to race the cleanest and safest race he's ever raced probably as of this point.
Yeah, no reason to take extra risk. Again, there is not going to be the risk that if there's a yellow flag, you don't have to worry about any sort of extra overtime, any additional restarts. You just have to make sure you bring it back home in one piece. And it's going to be really close on if that'll count as the white flag or not based on the time. 32-second lap times here at Kansas. He pretty much crossed the start-finish line exactly on that number. So we'll see if iRacing is going to display the white or the checkers this time by for Richard Regan Jr., who started this race on a pole. Barney, what do you got for him? Going to be the white flag, 1 lap to go.
I don't know if you noticed, I think Regan ran the top of the track there, hoping to run the clock out. It felt like I think he was hoping that he could kind of maybe trick the system into putting the checkered out. Not common. We've seen Regan up top a little bit tonight, but that last lap, he was way to the outside. I thought maybe he was trying to make the lap longer to trick Barney into putting the different flag out. But here we are. This is the white flag. Out of turn 3 and 4, it's Richard Regan Jr.
Short run, no problem. Long run, no problem either. He was the class of the field tonight. 3rd win of the season. Regan Jr. wins in Kansas.
See the fireworks off in the background celebrating the win. What a great camera shot here. See the field overall did great. Holly, Evans, Sink, Lomadic, some familiar names and some new names both in the top 10.
Yeah, a lot of drivers who were top trucks in this one end up finishing up there. I mean, for the top 7 finishers in this race, they were all trucks who started in the top 10. Maybe you expect a little bit more attrition, a little bit more movement than that in a race that has some craziness, a couple of restarts, some green flag runs, but seemed like if you showed speed in quali tonight, you had speed, and nobody really shocks us in the end in this one. And again, I don't think you could be shocked by the performance that Richard Regan Jr. has been putting down so far this season. Race winner earlier in the year, race number 2 into Bristol, a race winner at the Texas Motor Speedway, and now it's number 3 for Richard Regan Jr. What a season he's got going in the 56.
Took a while to get some smoke in the tires of it. I was beginning to wonder, but you can barely see it come out the back tires there. And I'm not sure if it's just, I'm not sure why there's not more smoke. Doing a pretty good burnout. It's really kind of hold it down there.
Well, he'll burn it down nonetheless. We'll blame it on the lights here at the Kansas Speedway as this race has gone well into the evening. About 10 o'clock p.m. in sim time as this one wraps up. Let's take a look at your SimGamingExpo Truck Series race results here for round number 5 at the Kansas Speedway. So Richard Regan Jr. and the Regan Vogue Motorsports Neon Group in victory lane once more. They'll finish ahead of the Woodback Racing 184 of Bradley Holly, who peaks at the end with a P2 result in this one, and the Miracle Flow Motorsports 51 of Jeff Evans. Bit of a quiet night tonight. Highest finisher to not lead a lap in this race. He comes home 3rd. We'll try to talk with all of them in a few moments. Thomas Sink, Ted Lowendick round out your top 5 finishers with Drew Wilkie, Reese Bogue, Stephen Baker, James O'Brien, and Dustin Bumgarner, your top 10.
I'm going to move back into P11 where you find James Morgan. By the way, one of the biggest movers of the night, finished up 14 spots. In P12 was Mark Kalin, who led some laps tonight. And then Robert Barney, Andrew Sharp, and Nathan Deering round out your top 15. 16th is Nicholas Schwartz with Dunn, Lane, Loving, and Gagnon rounding out your top 20.
And continuing on through the fields, again, not the nights that a lot of these drivers were looking for, as it is going to be Easter Day, Adams, Burnt, Seraph, and Austin through your top 25 finishers in this one. And then it'll be Hunter, Toomer, Scherf, and Williams, the top 30.
Moving back into P31's Brian Tope, that we saw in that Star Wars truck tonight. Zachary Williams back in 32nd. Jacob Watson 5 laps down back in P33. And then Steve Brunner, Daniel Knight, Doug Evans, Doyle Lawrence, and Nathan Ray round out a 37 truck field with Nathan Ray not racing.
That's a look top to bottom at your full race results tonight as the Tyler Manning Design 210 at the Kansas Speedway has drawn to a close. Well, I think we've got all of our top finishers standing by, so let's try to dial up. Let's go for the race winner. Why not? He's first on the speed charts. Let's get to him first. It is another race win in 2025 for Mr. Richard Regan Jr. And Richard, congratulations back to back. What a way to continue the momentum. Not only race number 3 on the year, but how about 2 in a row and continuing to pad things now at the top of the points? Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It was definitely a fun race tonight. A couple cautions got thrown in there to mix up the strategy, and obviously Mark was trying to hope for a late race caution and pull a move that I did last week, but unfortunately for him, no caution came out, and overall tonight was pretty clean from everybody, so that was nice, and it was nice to get some good long runs in. And yeah, the track drove awesome. I don't know. A lot of people were complaining about being tight entry center and then no drive off, but I mean, I don't know if it's how I broke my tires in, but this thing was hooked up tonight.
Yeah, I want to say that this race had a little bit of everything, and that's true because we had the long green flag runs, the green flag pit cycles, but you also had to fend them off in a couple of restarts. But I mean, in the end, this race benefited your truck on the long run. It seemed like off of restarts at the start of the race, and then when we had those couple yellows at the midway point, that some guys could kind of hang with you 10, 15 laps or so, right? You were feeling some pressure. You were in some side-by-side battles for the lead, but once you got 20 laps into the run, we just started to see you open things up. But you talk about how you broke in the tires. What do you feel like was the difference maker there that allowed you to keep that pace up when the run started to get long that seemingly nobody else could?
I think just being very patient early on in the run. The truck is very sensitive to what you do, even the first corner you go in on a restart. I mean, it will affect your truck on the long run. So just knowing little tips and tricks on tire wear and how I want to build up the tires and what tire I want to target depending on what the setup's doing. So if the truck's loose on center off and I know that, then I'm going to try to work the right front a little bit harder at the beginning of the run. So that way I can have a more balanced truck at the end. And that's pretty much what I try to do every race, and it worked out great for me tonight.
So 3 in the books. You've done it at Bristol. You've done it at Texas. Now you've done it at Kansas. So who's to say that you can't do it next week as we head back again and try once more to get that race in at the Rockingham Speedway? What's the outlook for that one as we head into round 6 and you continue to, I would assume, continue your best title defense as the points leader, and that's with a good offense. I'm assuming you're hoping for more of the same.
Yeah, just hoping for a good run next week. If we get top 4, that'll be pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan of Rockingham, especially the old pavement. I wish we would get the rescan of it, but not yet. And I know there's going to be a couple of guys in here that are fast. Mark's probably going to be super fast there. He was battling with me pretty good for the win a couple seasons ago in a different league there. So I know he's got vengeance to go out there and get it done next week. So it's going to be tough competition. And you guys have to tune in next week to see what happens.
We appreciate your time, Richard. We'll let you get out of here and celebrate. Before we do, though, anybody want to say hi to from Victory Lane?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to the SimGamingExpo, Jay-Z Photography, Mission 22, 44 Ever, Stant Analyzer, Multiple Sclerosis Society, everyone that supports the league, you guys at Green Flag TV, Profit Python, Regan Bogue Motorsports, Miracle Flow, CTNNB1, Mr. Hedge. And then I got to give a shout out to my girlfriend for supporting me. And also a huge shout out to Nick Byer on the pit box tonight for awesome strategy calls all night long.
Made it look good with that 56 up and in control for much of this one. Again, Richard, we appreciate your time. Congratulations on another win. Thank you. He's your race winner tonight at the Kansas Speedway. The Tyler Manny Design 210 goes to Richard Regan Jr. Well, Bradley Hawley was up and in the conversation a lot tonight. It'll be a P2 in the end for the driver of the number 184 machine, and Derrick Watson is with him.
Yeah, we're going to bring Bradley up into the booth. And well, Brad, what a great run tonight. P2, at times you were up there battling really hard with Jeff and Mark and other people out the league. How much fun was Kansas tonight?
It was fun. Just having to manage your different paces, depending on how many laps you had, was definitely a challenge. And trying to figure out what was the best thing to do. It was just it was nice to be able to go green for once and not have a billion cautions.
Yeah, well, that was sort of the question I was going to lead into. Only 2 yellow flags tonight. How much different would the strategy have been for yourself without those 2 yellow flags? How much would it have messed with the fuel strategy?
I would have been like Texas. We would have been on throttle more, but the later it gets in the race, the harder you're going to push. I mean, like this last green flag run with the pit stop, it was push as hard as you can, burn the tires up, burn the fuel up, and see how much time you can gain or what positions you can get and make it to the end.
So we talked in the broadcast. You celebrated, of course, May the 4th weekend. I know you built some new Lego Star Wars sets. Do you have any available you can show off, or do you want to talk about what you built this weekend?
Yeah, Kylo Ren. I don't know where my finger is right now. And then the very right over my shoulder is Boba Fett.
So I was going to say, you built, I think, 2 sets this weekend, maybe 3
2 helmets.
this weekend, or just 2. Mark Kalin, only through the first box of the Titanic.
Yeah, we need to shame him from now on because he's being ridiculous.
This has gotten a little long, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how he's not finished it. I start getting itchy when I don't open a box and start building a Lego. So I'm giving my hands a rest till next week, and I'm going to try to have it done. I don't remember
Jabba
what
the
it's called.
Hutt to go, right?
No, not Jabba the Hutt. I wish I had that one. It's Jango Fett's starship.
Gotcha.
That will be done not this coming Wednesday, the following. You might see it depending on where I put it.
Okay, so not for Rockingham, but likely for Charlotte.
Definitely for Charlotte.
All right. Well, listen, great run tonight in P2, and maybe we'll see you next week.
Hopefully.
All right. That is Bradley Holly enjoying the race tonight with only 2 yellow flags. Let's go ahead and bring in the driver who finished P3, the driver of the white and pink Miracle Flow machine, Jeff Evans. Jeff, you're up in P3.
Yeah, man, that's it's weird. I guess I got lost and just kind of stumbled upon this place.
Yeah, a little different at times. We saw at some point during the pit cycle you started to lead some laps. Was that just due to maybe pitting early? Was that due to the clean air on the track? What do you think led to you, at one point at least, being in the net race lead at one point?
Yeah, I definitely pitted a couple laps early. I saw a couple of the guys that were the spots like directly behind me pitted, and I didn't want to give them a chance to undercut me and make my life more difficult when I came back by on fresh tires. So I figured just pit, cover that off, and then apparently everybody else in front of me stayed out an extra couple laps. So that shows how strong the undercut is. But on the other side of it, then like Rich had I think 4 lap fresher tires, and he was clearing me like in a blink of an eye. So it's got its positives and negatives, but certainly worked out more positive than negative tonight.
So at times in the broadcast, we've talked about you at times being what I call the heart and soul of What About Racing. You're the guy who kind of organizes everything, right? Whether it be the on-track activities, whether it be maybe, the new PGA 2K group, whether it be the college football dynasties. Tell me why you think that stuff is important to a team like Whataback.
Just keeps everybody kind of, keeps everybody engaged, keeps everybody hanging out, and just builds good camaraderie. Everybody is really like genuinely good friends. We all we make it a point usually once a year to get together, whether it be like the Daytona 24 or this year we're a bunch of us trying to get down for Petit Le Mans. A couple of us were obviously up at the NHRA event a couple of weeks ago, like you talked about. So, we make it a point to, no matter like what we're doing, at least like I said, once a year to kind of get together. It just keeps everything fun.
All right, well, listen, great job at P3 tonight with that Miracle Flow machine, and we'll see you next week at Rockingham.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, that is Jeff Evans. We're going to go ahead and pull in one more here. I want to pull in someone who has a couple things to talk about. Thomas Sink in the 48 Grinds machine. Tom, P4 tonight. That race looked fun.
Yeah, I had a blast. Once we started going green, and I realized it was lap 30, chances of caution not coming out. I just dropped the hammer and started letting her eat.
So I have a question for you. I'm going to let you do this first. I understand you have a shout out you want to do first.
Yes. So it's my grandma's birthday today. I had to run home from the restaurant so that I could race tonight. So happy birthday to my grandma. I love you. I am so happy that she's watching. It's making my day.
Well, okay, what kind of restaurant? I won't ask you where, but what kind of restaurant?
So it's like a Central Illinois thing. I didn't know it existed until I moved down here. It's called Monocle's Pizza. It's like a better than a frozen pizza type pizza place.
Okay. It's a rousing endorsement. All right, better than frozen pizza. That's not their tagline, is it?
Well, no, I don't think it is. But I'm from Chicago,
Okay.
so we had that like really good Chicago pie.
Fair enough.
So when I came down here, it's like not quite Chicago. It's not quite frozen. It's kind of right there in the middle.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, and I didn't ask your permission to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyways. You put it in Discord this week, not only for What About Racing, but I think in PSR Discord. You got a pretty cool jersey this week. You
Yeah.
wanna talk
So
about that for a second.
yeah. So my wife and my father-in-law and my sister-in-law all decided we were gonna go to the Cubs game on Tuesday. So we're gonna go up to Wrigleyville on Tuesday and watch the Cubs. So I was kind of pondering this for a little bit, and I was talking to my wife, and we're like, let's get some custom jerseys. That'd be fun. And she's like, what do you want on your jersey? I said, well, I want the 48, which is my car number, and then my unit number, and then I want a Tago on the back. And for everyone that doesn't know, Tago was my service dog that passed in November.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool thing to see. So congrats on that. Well, congrats on that. I hope you enjoyed the pizza dinner. Happy birthday, Grandma, as it appeared on screen. And congrats on P4.
Thank you very much, and say I love you to my wife because she'll kill me if I don't say it.
Yeah, that's important too. All right, have a good night, Tom.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
All right, well, Evan, there you go. Better than frozen pizza.
That's what I strive for if I go to a pizza joint is better than frozen pizza. Which begs the question, Derrick, do you have a favorite frozen pizza? Because this is like a lot of people have very strong opinions on this.
I do. It's the local Safeway Albertsons local brand, this Signature Select. I enjoy the Rising Crust, to be specific. The one we tried last weekend was a spinach mushroom pizza. That was really kick-ass, actually.
See, I've been a Red Baron guy, which is very mainstream and not hot takey. But I've started liking the Sam's Club, the Members Mark frozen pizzas. It's like 4 pizzas in a pack for like $11. Unmatched value, and they're pretty thick compared to most frozen pizzas. So don't know if that's the take you thought you'd hear tonight, but I'm a fan of that. As you can see coming up after post-race coverage here, round number 4. Beer League Racing from Portland will be coming at you next. Let's talk about, though, where we are going next, and that is in 1 week's time. Wednesday, May the 14th, we finally head back to Old Rockingham Speedway.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's less than a mile, like 0.875 miles on the track. Bumpy, narrow, so very, very close side-by-side racing.
And we hope that you join us for that one as we start counting down. Only 4 races to go on the season. Does anybody have something for Richard Regan Jr.? He continues to rack up the race wins, and his race lead will grow headed into next week's race. Want to say one more big thanks to all of tonight's sponsors for making tonight's coverage possible. Of course, for our friends at the Sim Gaming Expo, for Miracle Flow, Profit Python, CTNNB1, Regan Boga Motorsports, Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography, and of course tonight's title sponsor, Tyler Manning Design. Thanks to all of them for being a part of this one. Until next time, that is it for us here tonight from the virtual Kansas Speedway. On behalf of our entire team here at Green Flag TV, and for your broadcast team tonight, for our producer Dustin Ollis, for Derrick Watson and myself, Evan Posocco, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week, Wednesday, May the 14th at iRacing's virtual Rockingham Speedway. That race and every race of the premier sim racing SimGamingExpo Truck Series can be found right here on Green Flag TV. Until next time, good night from Kansas, and congratulations to 3-time race winner Richard Regan Jr.